Hi, I'm Dr. Todd Lizon from Lifestyle Integration. As a nutritional balancing practitioner who's been doing this work for over 7 years, I can tell you that a large amount of the questions that I get are about a four lows pattern. There's an awful lot of people out there that are in this four lows pattern and they're stuck in it, to use that word, for a long time, and they start wondering if they're ever going to be able to break out of it. There's a reason that people are in four lows, and there is a way to come out of a four lows pattern. So I thought I'd put together this case study to show you an example of what has gone on in one particular woman I've been working with for a number of years, as I felt that it might help you in your understanding and in your motivation to continue to work through this on your journey to recover your health and your well-being. So let's take a look at this case study. What you can see here is a 58-year-old female. And this 58-year-old female is in a job that requires at times some night shifts. It requires some irregular hours. There's a lot of stress going on at work. And this is her first hair tissue mineral analysis that was done back in 2012. And the things that are of note that I'll mention on this is that she's in fast oxidation. And we can see this because the sodium and the potassium levels are quite elevated as compared to the calcium and the magnesium. And the other thing that's of note on this particular test is that her copper levels were elevated at 4.6. And another thing that you can't quite see, because I didn't have room to put the whole tissue analysis on here, so you can't see the toxic metal and other nutrient profiles, but she was showing a fairly significant amount of nickel, which can contribute to some of her problems as well. So on the right, you can see that her main concerns when she came to me were allergies, weight gain, low back pain, sleep issues. We set up the nutritional balancing program. She essentially was able to go off and do all of that. We consulted, and we did talk on the very first day about the possibility of getting a near-infrared sauna, and this particular woman was actually saying at the time that she was looking to build one. And this is important because we're going to come back to this as we go through this case study. So there's the first hair tissue mineral analysis. Now we go to the second. And this one was done a little bit later. This was done in March of 2013. And there's a couple things that you can see here. Number one is that her fast oxidation, and that's another way of saying somewhat that there's a stress response. You can see that she is recovering from that. So the program has been working. She's been doing very well. She's recovering from that fast oxidation, but she's still fast. And we can also see that the copper has settled. I can tell you that her nickel basically remained the same on this test. And just overall, you get a sense that everything is kind of settling on this test. She's been good at following the program. She still has the sweet cravings. She still has, well, she has some fatigue now. The weight issues are still there. The one thing that hasn't changed, though, is that she has got a lot of work stress. And when I was taking my notes and speaking with her, she was saying that there's never enough hours in the day to get done what she needs to do. And I find that that's a pretty common complaint with people, is that they just don't seem to have enough time. And that is one of the main things that people do need to address. But regardless, she's also recognized that she needs to sleep and rest more. And that's important because a lot of people don't actually recognize that they have this great need to sleep a lot more. So we move on now to the third. And this is where the case study comes into play. You can see now that she's in a four lows pattern. Four lows being, for those of you that don't know, calcium, magnesium, sodium, and potassium, the first four, are all below the ideal levels. In a way, this is good because we can see that things are settling, right? Nickel has started to settle down. The resolving of that stress response, the fast oxidation is there, which is really, really good. But again, the work stress is there. And this is important when we talk about weight loss for some, because physiologically, when we're under stress, we're actually designed to put fat onto the body. So there's some physiological reasons for that, and I think that this is part of the reason why she's had trouble with some weight gain. Plus with the fast oxidation and the stress response that was going on through there. So now I can tell you that she's doing a bit more of the meditation. That was a little bit different on this test. That might be partly why things have been working. She's got a little bit of anxiety around work. You can read sort of what's been going on with her on the right-hand side. She's had some cravings, but still no saunas. So we fast forward in time now to 2014 in November, and this was her absolute low point. Now remember, this is her 4th test. She has been really quite good at following the program, but not perfect, not ideal. And there was a few areas that she knew she wasn't doing enough in, a lot of it being in the mental, emotional, the stress management side of things, the deep breathing perhaps. There was this aspect that stress was still quite present. And as a result, we've reached this low point. And I can tell you, when I was speaking to you, and this is common with most people, and I think this is why I wanted to do this case study, she was very disappointed. Kind of reaching that point where you're wondering if things are actually working and getting better, or are they getting worse? Why are we bottoming out? And it's a bit of a roller coaster, and we go through our ups and our downs, but she used this test result as her motivation. She really looked at this and went, you know what? Obviously the tests are telling the truth of what's going on with me. I've bottomed out. I've got this, look at her sodium and potassium, that 2 and 1. That's a severe burnout. That's quite a fatigued, tired person. She used it as her motivation. She really got on track of things. She started talking about getting the sauna again. She was considering it, but I can tell you, because I know how this case study went, that she didn't do it. So now we fast forward in time to 2015 in May, and you can see she started to recover. She's calmer. There's less anxiety going on. All of a sudden, she's managing work better. She's doing daily meditation now. She's really kind of taken the bull by the horns and looked at this emotionally and from a stress perspective, and her symptoms are far better. They're still there, but they're far better. Now, again, you can't see the toxic metals. The nickel has settled, but she's not at any point eliminated any toxic metal. She shows a little bit of aluminium, and that's it. And again, for people, they need to understand that this is common. The body is shut down. We're not going to have a lot of energy or ability to eliminate a lot of toxic metals for most people that are in a 4 lows program. They just don't have that energy to do so. So she's not showing any toxic metals. It doesn't mean they're not there. It just means that they're not being eliminated at this point in time. So she's improving on this test, which is really nice to see. We fast forward again to December of 2015, and notice again the sodium and the potassium levels are coming up. That's really, really good. You can see that there's balance through this test now. Her ratios are better. Her oxidation rate is better. And it turns out that that's correlated to what she's been doing over the number of months. She's handling her stress even better. She's found out that she's got a more positive approach to things, right? She's gone from a negative approach to a positive approach. She's resting more and able to rest more instead of being busy. A lot of people are busy for the sake of just being busy, and those people know who they are. Most people, a lot of people, just can't sit still and essentially do nothing or very little. They have to be constantly busy because that distracts them from dealing with the more important issues in their life, which is usually the stresses that are causing this 4 lows pattern. It's a really vicious cycle. She's following the program well, except for the sauna. And in this conversation, after 6 tests, she finally tells me that the most likely reason she hasn't done the sauna is she doesn't like the idea of feeling or being hot in a sauna. So it's a bit of a mental block to using a sauna. And I can tell you that she lives in a bit of a hot climate, so that might be part of the reason for it as well. So we talked about that. She's continuing with her ongoing emotional work. Far less symptoms, still some cravings, anxiety, and a little bit of the weight gain, but overall she's doing better. We'll fast forward now to 2016 in October, still no sauna. After that last conversation, I thought she might have done it, but she hadn't. But on a positive side, because things are still improving and balancing out through here, decreasing workload, and she was about to go on 2 months long service leave. At this point in this conversation, though, she did decide to get the sauna. She purchased it and started using that sauna. And we'll now fast forward to the last hair tissue mineral analysis. And here you can see she came out of the 4 lows pattern. Calcium and magnesium have finally come up. And most important, so she came out the right way of 4 lows. The right way means you came out into slow oxidation, not fast oxidation because of a stress response. Some people come out of 4 lows where they see sodium and potassium are the ones that come up above the ideal. That's called coming out of 4 lows backwards. So she's come out of this the right way, and most importantly, her sodium and potassium levels have risen as well. It's good, but it's not ideal when you see you coming out of a 4 lows pattern and the sodium and the potassium still stay around that 1 or 2 level. It's okay, but it's far better when we see the 6 and 5 like this because her energy capacity is rising. So really good that she's come out, but she has a very long ways to go. She's just come out of it. And if you look at it technically, it's only the magnesium that got her out of this. So it'd be very easy to fall back into 4 lows. But even if she did, that's okay, because she knows that if she does everything she needs to do, that it's possible for her to come out of 4 lows after, remember, she went into 4 lows in 2013. That's 4 years ago. 4 years she was in a 4 lows pattern, and she's now come out of that. Why? Well, as I've been speaking, you've probably been reading the notes that I've made down the right-hand side. She's made major changes in how she looks at the world and how she fits into the world. Her approach to work has dramatically changed. She's no longer stressed by it. She's let it go. And she continues her own self-development work. That self-development is part of this program. That's why it's called a development program, and it happens over time. You can't always force it. In fact, you can't force it. But it develops over time when you're doing all the synergistic elements of a nutritional balancing program. Why did she come out of it now, though? We both attribute it to the use of the sauna. However, we have to admit that it is possible that it's also the increased emotional work that she's been doing. So in my experience, I've seen people come out of it when they do start to use the sauna because it forces their body to relax. It produces more energy, which is ATP. It increases nitric oxide. It produces heat shock proteins for healing. It turns on some of the genes to help you manage stress. It's the benefits to the near infrared sauna are immense. But the other reason that we see people come out of it is when they do deal with their emotional stuff. And I often refer to this as a critical stress. And when I talk to people, 4 lows is really based on stress. And the major stresses that people can't or won't, and I love that saying, can't or won't, because a lot of people say I can't, but really what they mean is they won't. They don't deal with the major ones. And the major ones are you're in a bad relationship that you know you shouldn't be in. You're in work that you know you don't want to be in or should be in, or you're not really living a life of purpose. You're just going out, doing the same thing, coming home, going to bed, going back out again, doing the same thing, and you know you should be doing something different with your life. It's not what you were really here to be doing. Those are the 3, what I find to be critical stresses that people usually won't deal with, and until they do, they often don't come out of a 4 lows pattern. So in this particular woman's situation, it was the use of the sauna and possibly dealing with a lot of this emotional stuff that had happened over time. But I thought this would be a wonderful case study to put together for people to have a look at. So there you have it. That is a 4 lows case study. Obviously, she's still continuing to work on the program. She's going to continue to use this sauna on a regular basis, and it will be very interesting to see what would happen. But I wanted to bring this out to you now because I do get a lot of questions about 4 lows, stress, how to manage it, what has to happen, and I thought this would be a wonderful case study for people to look at. So enjoy. You can always pause the video, go back, look to see where she was at with levels, 3 tests ago, or come back and take a look. You're more than welcome to do that. But enjoy, and until next time, keep well.